Hi there, my name's April Sawtelle and welcome to my channel. Today what I want to talk about is rulers. If you're a beginner quilter and you're just starting out, you might want a few little tips on some of the rulers that we use the most, or that each person uses the most. Everybody's different on this. I'm going to tell you today the ones that I use the most, and I'm going to just show you the ones I have, and I'll explain as I go at how often I use each one. Okay, I'll start with the biggest first. This one is a 20.5-inch ruler. I use this all the time. This is my square up ruler. I always pull this out when I'm going to square up a quilt. I always do my corners with it. It works really, really well. I don't use it for blocks that often because it's pretty big and I don't typically make 20-inch squares. All right, then I'm going to show you this. This is my 12.5-inch ruler. Love it, use it all the time. It's got all of the lines in it. So I've got my 45-degree angles, my 60-degree angles, and my 30-degree angles. You really, when you're shopping for rulers, you really might want to think about having all of the angles. I have seen some rulers that don't have them, but there's a lot of times that you do need to be at a certain angle, and it's nice to have a ruler that will accommodate for that. Okay, next I have an 11.5-inch ruler. This is the Creative Grids ruler. This is fabulous. This has all of the little grippies on it. It just works really good. It sets on the fabric. Out of all of my rulers, probably my favorite are the Creative Grids, but I don't have this in a 12.5, so I use my 12.5 Fiskars one. It doesn't have the grippies on it, and that's okay. So, but what happens is sometimes I'll make blocks that are 12.5 inches, and I always like to have the next size down because you want to square up. When you want to trim up your blocks, it's nice to just have the actual size block. There's no fussing around, you know, using a bigger ruler to cut down a smaller ruler. That's just my little tip. That works for me. I like to just use the size ruler that the project is when it comes to trimming. So if I have the 12.5-inch block, I'll trim it down to probably the 11.5-inch ruler, just to make it really simple for me. So then I have the 9.5-inch ruler. Perfect, same thing, Creative Grids. What I did was I bought a whole set of Creative Grids. It had all of the different sizes in -1-inch increments. So that works really well for me. It's nice to have those. So if you're making a 4.5-inch block, you have a 3.5-inch one you can use to cut out the end product with ruler. All right, next with this Creative Grids one, well, let's just keep going. I'm gonna pull this back here. I have this Fiskars. This is a 6.5-inch ruler. I do use that a lot. That doesn't have the grippies, but it does have all of the angles. Works great. Okay, then I have these little ones here. Well, this is an 8-inch ruler, not 8.5, but this has the open hole here, so you can cut your square out or place it when you're needing to. You have a picture and you want to trim around the picture. You can place this ruler and put like your picture in the center. This is a great ruler to have. I wish I kind of had a different size in it too, maybe a little bit of a smaller one, but this works great. And then this one is my 6.5-inch Creative Grids. Love that whole bundle that I have here. And then it even gets a little bit smaller. I have the Creative Grids one. I think the set came with the 6.5, 5.5, 4.5, 3.5, and 2.5. I'm not certain on that, but it's a great to have. That whole little set is so helpful when you want to make certain blocks, certain sizes, to go to the next size down to do your trimming. All right, the next one I have are these These are just your standard 6.5 by 24-inch rulers. I use these all the time. They work great. They do what I need them to do. Sometimes I'll use this to trim up the quilt. I'll use this button up to the big ruler, and it will give me my straight line on the edges of my quilt. So I have 2 of those. Those are fabulous. I have this nice little Omni-Grid ruler. This has all of the angles, and this is a 6 by 12-inch ruler. It's great. It's small enough. It works super. It's not so big to take out as these big ones, so it makes it nice to work with that. Then I also have this Creative Grids. This is just a 24 by, I believe this is this one is a 2-inch ruler. Works good when you just need something and you don't need that big gaudiness. Here, I use this sometimes. This is really helpful too. I probably wouldn't want to be without that, because there are times that I do need to measure a seam, and it's handy. I keep it right here with my quilt rulers. All right, so I also have like specialty rulers. I'm not going to go into those today because I'll show you sometime. I'll do a tutorial on whatever the ruler's for. I'll be making a quilt with those specialty rulers, and we can talk about them then, because there's quite a lot of information to talk about on each one of those. But they're awful fun to have too. Now, rulers can be very expensive, so when you're just starting out, and even if you're not just starting out, you might only want to be very limited. A lot of times you might not want a lot of too much of anything. You know, you just might want to have just what you need. So if I had to pick out of my pile exactly just what I wanted, I mean just what I needed, I'll show you how that would work. So I would take, and I would definitely have my 20-inch ruler. I would for sure have my 24-inch by 6.5-inch. I'd have one of those. I would have an 8.5-inch square. I would definitely have a 12.5-inch ruler. That's just something I probably would have a hard time to be without. And probably a 6-inch ruler, if that's what it, and sometimes you can find little bundles with just like a couple of those sizes. So the rest of these, I don't have to have them. I just like having them. But if you might find that you do blocks in different sizes. You'll know that as you go. So if you find that you're always doing one certain size block, that's the size ruler you probably want. Even if you got one up size, you know, if you do 8.5-inch blocks all the time, that's your thing. Get a 9.5-inch block and an 8.5-inch block, so you can cut your blocks out, and then you'll have 1, 2 cut out after you're all finished with your project, and you can just use that and as your guide. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time, and remember to keep it simple. Have a good day. Bye.